Hey, this is the Pizza here, and I'm just going to be showing some more gameplay from Path of Exile. This is actually a different character than my previous video. He's a level 16 duelist, I believe. But that's not what this video is going to be about. So, soon I'm actually going to be going to college, and I'm going to be majoring in video game design. Since I figured I love to play games, I like to know about many of the games that come out, so I figure why not have a shot at making the games. By the way, this is live commentary, so apologize for any like slow talking while I'm in the middle of combat. But what this video is going to be about is what makes a good game. I mean, just what are the things that need to be in a game to make it be fun to play and be a success. So I've spent a little bit of time thinking about this, considering that I am going into video game design, and there are just a few key things that I think every game needs to have if it wants to be successful. So first thing would be controls. The controls of a game need to feel good. They just need to feel very natural, very responsive. If the controls aren't there, then the game's probably not going to be very fun to play. Case in point, Super Mario Brothers, excellent controls. Path of Exile, what I'm playing right now, good controls, very nice. Maybe a little bit of work could be done with the way that you can't move and cast at the same time. It's a little bit awkward sometimes casting a spell, so that does detract from the experience ever so slightly. One of the most popular first-person shooters right now, Call of Duty. As much as I do not like the Call of Duty series past Call of Duty 4, I have to say the controls on console, at least, are what, you know, are a big part of what make the game as popular as it is. People love the responsive controls. So good controls are probably one of the first and major points of what makes a good game. Another example would be Ninja Gaiden, the original on the NES, which I did play through the entire game. And I gotta say, as hard as nails as that game was, the controls were excellent. If Ryu missed a jump, more often than not, it was my fault. Sometimes it was the game putting a bat in front of a particularly nasty jump, but usually it was my fault. So next to controls is graphical style. Now, that's not to say the game has to have high fidelity graphics. It doesn't need to have amazing polygon counts, the newest DirectX 11 effects, or anything like that. It just needs to have a distinct style that fits well with the game and makes sense. Once again, using the example of Super Mario Brothers, that game has just such a unique graphical style to it that it's instantly recognizable. I mean, you see any Super Mario Brothers gameplay and you know that's Super Mario Brothers. I just realized that's the aura that makes them not able to be killed. So this is an extreme problem that I'm in right now, and I'm dead. I am so dead. Just gonna run. So yeah, graphical style. Case Path of Exile right now. Kind of sorry I'm using the same example over and over again, but it's a little bit easier when I'm in combat. Path of Exile, very dark, very gritty world. Not a lot of happiness and joy to be found. Let's see. It's another good example of graphical style. Super Meat Boy. Just very 16-bit graphical style that it just I don't even know how to describe it, but it just fits the style of game so well. And that's part of what made it so much fun to play. Was, you know, that, and once again, going back to the controls of Super Meat Boy. Excellent. Just so excellent. So the graphical style, like I said, it doesn't have to be a good looking game necessarily, it just has to have a consistent style. It can't have something that just looks completely out of place and it just doesn't belong. Like if there was some enemy from Contra in the middle of Super Mario Brothers, you'd be like, well, that's not right. Why is that there? That's why, you know, Contra enemies stay in Contra. Super Mario Brothers enemies stay in Super Mario Brothers. So past the controls and the gameplay style, sound design. Sound design is a major part of what makes a game fun to play. Checking my quest here. I've already beaten the game, but just need to know. Sound design. If the sounds of the game aren't satisfying, it's sort of, I think most of us have played a game where, be it a first-person shooter or a platformer or something, where when you perform an action, the sound just it doesn't fit. Like you fire off a rifle and it just goes pew, 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 pew. It's like, what was that? Did I just fire off a gun or did I fire a blow dart? So, and in terms of Path of Exile here, it's again using the same examples. The sound when you hit an enemy, it's a very meaty sound. It's got a nice thud to it. I apologize for any frame rate drops. But yeah, it's got a very meaty sound. When I freeze an enemy and break them, the shattering sound, it's just so nice to hear. The Super Mario Brothers, when you jump on a Goomba, the sound of that. I mean, once again, a very memorable sound. And a very satisfying sound. It's instant feedback that you've done something right, and gives the player satisfaction knowing that they're doing well, and you know that the game is sort of responding well to what they're doing. Same goes for the original Ninja Gaiden. When you slash an enemy with your sword and you hear them get hit by it, you know instantly that enemy is dead. You know instantly that you've done something right thanks to the sound design. If Ryu swings his sword and there was literally no sound, it would just feel very empty, and the game wouldn't have as much impact. In terms of recent events, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, might die here, but Counter-Strike Global Offensive has recently been undergoing a lot of updates in regards to the way the guns feel, since that is a major part of Counter-Strike. And a lot of people earlier, I'm not sure if they still are, but earlier were complaining about the way the AK-47 sounded. They said it sounded like a toy gun. So, the AK-47 in Counter-Strike 1.6 and Source for that matter, it had a very distinctive, very loud, very just, it had a thud when you fired it. It was, when you heard an AK-47 fire off, you knew it was an AK-47. It wasn't something that would, you know, take 20 bullets to kill you. It was something that would kill you in 3 or 4 shots, or one well-placed headshot. And same goes for the AWP. The sound of the AWP is another one of those sounds that is known throughout gaming. The very loud and percussive boom of an AWP firing in mid on Dust 2 when you're crossing through to B. That's just sound that just strikes fear into the heart of any counter-terrorist. So let's see, we went over controls, graphical style, sound design. I believe there was one more thing I wanted to talk about. can't quite remember it right now. But those are definitely three of the major points of what makes a game just fun to play. Oh yes, rewarding the player. The player needs to have some sort of reward whenever they do something in the game well. Now, I suppose this could also go hand in hand with punishing the player for doing something poorly, which, in the case of many games, just results in your death. If you do something too poorly, you die. Rewarding the player in terms of games like Path of Exile, Diablo, Torchlight, it's all the loot drops and progression in the story. That is some nice armor, but I'm doing what everyone says you shouldn't do in this game and going for a full evasion build. So, we'll see how it works out in the end. But yes, rewarding the player, whether it be through score, story progression, or level progression, as in lots of MMOs, Call of Duty, just constantly rewarding the player. Some games have sort of gone a little too far with the rewards recently. I think Battlefield 3 is a prime example of that. I personally did not actually buy the game, but from what I've heard, the reward system is just a bit out of hand in the fact of how much stuff you actually need to unlock in that game before you can be at the same level as everyone else. So those four things, they all need to be in the game in some way. I mean, it doesn't have to have perfect controls. It doesn't have to have, you know, perfect everything, perfect sound design, perfect controls, a perfect way to reward the player, and perfect graphical style. It doesn't need to have all of those, but it does need to have some amount of each one. Because if a game, it sounds great, it looks great, you're constantly getting rewarded, but the controls are god awful, you're not going to want to play. You're going to pick it up, get frustrated at the controls, and you're going to be like, I mean, it's nice to get all these rewards and the game looks great, but my god, I can't play this, it's just awful. I can't really think of a game that would do that, or has done that recently, or in the past. But same goes for any of the other categories. Perfect controls, perfect graphics, you know, perfect sound design, but you never feel rewarded. It'd be like if Geometry Wars, which was very popular on the Xbox Arcade a while back. Imagine if that game didn't have a score, and you just went through and completed each of the levels, and you didn't get any score, you weren't scored. You just sort of went along, and once you were done, you died, and that was it. Well, there would be no point in keeping playing, because you're not being rewarded in any way, shape, or form. You're just playing. And sure, it may feel great, but if you don't feel like you're actually getting anything, if you don't feel like you're improving, then there's no point. It's like in Trackmania, if they didn't keep a record of your times. Sure, you might be able to feel like you're getting better at the tracks, but there'd be no way of comparing your score to previous runs, or anything like that. So I'm not really sure how much else there is to say about what makes a good game. But in my opinion, those are just four of the main components that need to be there. If you don't have at least a small amount of each of those, it's not going to be a successful game. If anyone in the comments can, if you know, for all 5 people that watch this, if anyone in the comments can name, you know, one very successful game, I won't even say very successful, one successful game that hasn't at least had some portion of all of that, go for it. And if you do, and prove me wrong, good. Start a discussion. What do you think makes a game good? Because this is just my opinion. And I would like to know what you guys have to think about it, because it's, you know, it's something that interests me. It's what's going to be my college major, hopefully, you know, assuming everything goes well. And, you know, it's good to know these things from more than just one point of view, that being mine. So don't just take my words for what they are. Use your own thoughts. Try to, you know, create your own opinions on what you think makes a game good. Leave it in the comments if you want to. If you disagree, just do it in a respectful manner. And I just love to see what anyone else has to say about this. And once again, if you can name a game, been successful, doesn't have at least some bit of each of those 4 components, go for it. So I think that about wraps up this video. There's not really much else for me to say. Didn't get very far in Path of Exile, but that wasn't the point. I was just sort of killing things in the background, just for some eye candy. Alright, I think that'll be it for this video, and I'll see you next time.